Welcome to Podcast of All Podcasts. Enjoy best moments of podcast history.
Cage the elephant.
Did you stand there all alone? Oh, I cannot explain what's going down. I can see you standing next to me, in and out, somewhere else right now. You sigh, look away. I can see it clear as day. Close your eyes, so afraid. Hide behind that baby face. Do 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 do. You can drive all night, looking for the answers in the pouring rain. You wanna find peace of mind, looking for the answers. Funny how it seems like yesterday. As I recall, you were looking out of place, gathered up your things and slipped away. No time at all, I followed you into the hall. Cigarette, daydream. You were only 17, so sweet with the mean streak. Nearly brought me to my knees. You can drive all night, looking for the answers in the pouring rain. You wanna find peace of mind, looking for the answers. If we can find a reason to change, looking for the answers. If you can find a reason to stay, standing in the pouring rain. You can drive all night, looking for the answers in the pouring rain. Wanna find peace of mind, looking for the answer. We can find a reason to change, looking for the answer. If you can find a reason to stay, standing in the pouring rain.
Marc Maron with Rob Corddry.
Corddry, blah blah blah. It says commemorative, so it's really it's literally a fake Emmy.
So they had to do that legally?
Yeah, it's given. I mean, they bought it from the whatever
From the Emmy
Academy.
place?
Yeah, from the Emmy store,
Oh, so
the Emmy Mart.
so the Emmys have actually prepared for the fact that they know they're only awarding the people that produce the show,
Yep.
and that there'd be a bunch of unhappy talent, so they make this available.
They probably. I mean, yeah. I think it was John. I think that was nice enough to say
Can you
yeah.
give?
Can you throw me five more of those things?
Throw the talent
For the
about
kids?
Yeah. They seem to be doing something around the office.
But I don't know what to do with it because it's even a real Emmy. I'd feel a little embarrassed to have it
to
out or whatever.
display?
But it's not even a real Emmy.
No, especially if it's just one. I think when people put 3 or 4 out, then it's sort of impressive. But at that point, you'd have a room for them that you'd only bring people, who are special. Like,
Yeah,
can I show you the-
exactly. Well, let me show you the Emmy
Yeah.
room.
Rob Corddry is in the garage here at the Cat Ranch. A late call. This is one of the later interviews I've done. So I don't know what my tone might be a little different.
Oh,
Night has fallen.
Yeah.
You've come from work.
Yeah.
Usually I get people out when they're uncomfortable. It's during the day. They're still getting up. But you've had a full day.
Comedians in the morning.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
They're sort of vulnerable. They're not sure what they're doing here.
No, I've had a full day. I was actually kind of dozing off in my car on the way over here. My eyes
So you got
were
a
getting
nap
really
in.
heavy. I was literally shaking my head. How many times have you done that, shaking your head?
It's the worst feeling in the world. The moment when you wake up and you're driving, that is the worst.
It is terrifying.
It really is.
Terrifying.
Because you know right then, who the fuck knows what could have happened.
Yeah.
So what?
And full-on hard-on. Every time I fall asleep, I wake up with a full-on hard-on.
Just like the morning.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you're like, that's probably not usable. I just got to pee and it'll go away.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're shooting a second season of Children's Hospital.
Technically the third. The first season was a web series.
Right.
So, but we're calling it the third season.
But how did that make the jump? I mean, what now? Because everyone talks about it's a big dream. Like that's what the idea of providing free content for servers or for YouTube. Yeah. The big idea is that someday someone will go, "Wow, let's make a television show out of that." Yeah. But where was the web series? Was it just on YouTube or was it sponsored?
No, it was sponsored. It was in that sort of sweet spot around the writer strike.
Right.
Area when studios didn't have a lot to do, and they all started these digital arms, right?
As a loophole, we got to keep these guys working.
Exactly. No,
and
for real.
They'll work for free. It's terrific.
It's also free development for them. Now,
right.
It kind of failed. There wasn't many web series that went to, that actually got to be shows, but we were just lucky in that. We treated it like a television show. You know what I mean? It looks good. It was one of the first web series to actually look slick,
right?
For the internet. I mean, on TV it looks like shit.
It's amazing that the kind of crap that people put up who expect opportunity to come from it. Like it is the internet, but just as easy it is to put things on the internet, it's not that expensive to shoot something that looks good, is it?
Yeah, no. I mean, but you get the right people,
right?
You know what I mean? That's it.
Who are your people?
We've got just one of those like stalwart camera operators, who. This was one of his first DP jobs, and he is just like, he's the best.
Isn't it great when you work with people that know what they're doing?
Oh my God, he's incredible.
Like my technological expertise is limited to what's happening right between my mouth and this microphone. Really.
There's a lot of wires in this room. Well, you got a good setup here.
Someone had to come teach me how to use shit.
It's good.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like I know what I'm doing, but really, if something were to go wrong, I've got to make some calls.
My wife, oh man, half of my life is spent trying to teach my wife. She's been married. I'm kind of tech savvy, and I've spent the last 10 years literally like telling her how to open a file on the computer. She's just completely retarded when it comes to working.
Just with working though, she can do other things.
Otherwise, well, actually, she has Down syndrome.
Well, good for you. I mean, it's nice to help out. Now,
it's always been a fetish of mine.
What are the odds of you having a normal kid or?
2 completely normal kids.
Really?
Yeah,
and
who are midgets. Yeah. I don't know how that worked out.
You got a funny family. Boy, you should do a show with that family. That's the next show after Children's Hospital is a guy with a Down syndrome wife and 2 normal children who are midgets.
It's called Poor Rob Corddry.
Is this how you develop shows?
Exactly.
You're one of those ridiculous people.
Yeah.
It's just like, I just thought of it on Maron's podcast and I realized, holy shit, there's got to be some Down syndrome actors. Right?
I'm pitching it tomorrow.
All right. Okay. So it's on the web series, and but where was it? Was it on YouTube? Because I'm
sorry. Yeah, that was the question.
My internet was down, so I don't know anything about you other than what I've seen on television the few times we've met.
Right.
So we'll just go by that one.
Sure. I'll tell you all about myself.
Good. So you just threw it up on, but you had some cachet. People knew who you were. You were on the Daily Show.
Yeah,
you were
I guess.
And the Hot Tub Time Machine hadn't come out that time. Right?
No. I was in a lot of crappy movies before that. But yeah, the Daily Show was pretty much the thing, and it was Warner Brothers themselves who produced it, and only for their website.
But they couldn't pay you?
Oh, they paid us.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
No, we got a full budget, I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was pretty good for a
But
web
how
series.
was that avoiding the writer strike in a sense? They weren't paying writers, or how did that work?
I don't really know. I don't have
Was
a
it some
good
sort of
answer for
loophole,
that.
like, that it wasn't, internet didn't count?
It's not union.
Right.
Or, I don't really remember, but I remember that's what I was doing with my time.
And what was the development process of the show? I mean, what sparked the idea?
Well, I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old daughter. My 4-year-old was 2 at the time, and she has this thing. It's called nursemaid's elbow, where a ligament, if you jerk it hard enough, her ligament will pop out.
And you learned that how?
I was beating the shit out of her one day.
Yeah.
And she popped it out.
And you said, "Why are you crying?"
Exactly.
That didn't hurt me when I was a kid.
And all of a sudden, comedy was born.
Yeah.
But it is actually just that tragic. Like, we went to Children's Hospital, the emergency room, and like, it's the least funny place on the planet, you know? And,
Of course.
scared parents and crying and hurt kids. And the thing that I found was not funny, but I think the idea came when I noticed that everything was like small sized.
Yeah.
Like gurneys are smaller and IVs are smaller.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's horrible. And somewhere in there I had the idea for it.
And what, you are the chief doctor there, or what is your...
No. I have a very, actually, of the leads in the show, I have probably one of the smaller parts, just so, I could do the other stuff.
And you're working with kids?
And I'm very bad.
Yeah.
I can't act when I'm doing all this other stuff. I
Really?
find it really hard to, like, turn it all off. And it's getting easier. But during the web series, which I also directed, I didn't direct any other ones, I was junk.
Yeah.
Garbage.
Because you're too distracted?
Complete garbage.
You actually stand behind the counter and go, Rob!
You're awful. Wrong.
I just watched fucking Hot Tub Time Machine, and that's your movie, for fuck's sake. I had no idea. I mean, I knew you were coming over, and I had rented it actually before I think I knew you were coming over, because I wanted to see it, because I like you, I like Craig Robinson, and I didn't realize Cusack was in it, and I didn't know the other kid. But that's your movie.
Oh, well, thanks, man. I mean, me and Craig got very lucky in that movie because they needed something fun. Like that whole crazy scene where I almost blow him in the bathroom and I get fake jizz all over my...
Yeah.
That was a reshoot because they just needed something to break up the Cusack story, the love story. And we were just sort of had that landed in our laps, you know? And that's like... It's just the greatest,
but you
stupidest scene.
You were just so fucking over the top.
Yeah,
pretty much. And that's sort of what you do.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And that when you started, you never did stand up, right?
No, I did sketch and improv.
Where'd you come from?
Well, I remember actually seeing you at Gotham Comedy Club way back in the early '90s.
Yeah. Was I an asshole?
No. I just watched you.
Oh.
We never met.
Oh.
But you were just one of the guys that I would see perform. We were the house sketch group at Gotham Comedy Club, and it was called Third Rail Comedy.
Okay.
And
was that like on Monday nights or something, or like an off
something
night?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Monday or Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
And basically,
That's
guys like you would come in and just work stuff out.
Right.
Or that's the impression I got.
Right. We'd come in and they'd be like, "Yeah, the sketch show's on."
Yeah.
And we'd wait around going, "Oh boy!" And you
boy.
look in the room. There's more than 2 people on stage,
and nobody wanted to follow a sketch group either.
Someone's...
No matter how bad we were, it's just like it's a different thing. Stand-ups hated us.
I don't hate sketch, but there's moments where I watch sketch and I'm not sure that I understand it clearly. Like it's hard for me to tell the difference between a fucking genius sketch and one that's just shit. Is that possible? I mean, in the sense that like I see if there's if there's 3 or 4 people up there and they're all doing this thing, and then there's one payoff at the end that's ridiculous. I'm thinking, like, it took 4 people to do that?
Why don't you just tell it as a joke? Because that's really what it is. It's like, just blow it like a 5-minute joke.
Sometimes, but other times, like, if things are really kind of synchronized, and I guess I don't want to be an asshole, but it's
Please do.
Well, but it's hard to make sketch that doesn't look like, are we in college?
It's all been done.
Yeah.
It's like really the only time I ever laugh at a sketch is if I think it's a truly, truly original, fresh idea, and I haven't seen that.
Well, what drove you in that direction? I mean, did you watch sketch when you were a kid and decided that was the shit? Or
I
what?
did, but no. Like, I was a big fan of, old SNL and Monty Python and Kids in the Hall. Those are probably my biggest sketch influences. But I was doing, I fancied myself quite the important actor when I was young and in New York. I went to theater school and I came to New York and I was in really shitty Shakespeare plays, but I was always playing the jackass, you know what I mean?
Right.
And my friend asked me to audition for a sketch group and I was like, all right. And then I just really loved it.
Did you go to college for theater?
Yeah.
Where?
UMass Amherst.
Oh, fuck, I know UMass Amherst.
Yeah, sure
I
you
drove
do.
out there. There's like 4 schools out there. There's Mount Holyoke,
Yeah.
Amherst. There's the
Smith.
hippie school.
Yeah.
Isn't Hampshire out there?
Hampshire, yeah.
Like there's just this weird cluster. You drive out and
Tom Morello.
Played so far is the only way that is acceptable to play. And as someone who grew up studying classical music, when I hear you play, it makes my brain crazy in a good way. All that non-conventional picking, tapping, you know, all the guitar effects. So how have you come up with such interesting noises, and how the heck do you make a guitar sound so cool with a pencil?
Well, I started playing guitar very late. I started playing at 17 years old, and I had never heard of another guitar player that made an album that started that late, with one exception. That was Robert Johnson, and he had to sell his soul at the crossroads to do that. So I didn't want to have to go that route, so I thought practice might be the other alternative. And the best advice I ever got as a guitar player was from a kid in high school who was more advanced than I, and he said, if you want to improve, practice an hour a day, every day, without fail. And I took that as gospel, and I found that the rising tide of my playing was so noticeable when I did that, then I bumped it up to 2 hours a day, and then 4 hours a day. And while I was attending Harvard University, I was practicing 4 hours a day, 365 days a year, and over the course of 4 years, maybe missed a day or two due to like traveling or something like that. So if I had I studied till 1 a.m. with an exam the next morning, I would practice till 5, not till 4:58. Now, this is indicative of an obsessive-compulsive disorder. You might be gathering, and you'd be correct about that. But all that did was amass a certain amount of technique and ability that caught me up to some other guitar players who at the time were my heroes, like the Eddie Van Halens and Randy Rhodeses, who had a great deal of technique. I didn't have my own voice on the instrument. It was around the time of Rage Against the Machine where I self-identified as the DJ in the band and began looking at the guitar in a deconstructed way, and that it is just a piece of wood with 6 wires and a few electronics that can be manipulated in any number of ways, and that could create sounds, and then those sounds, even though they're unconventional, can be used as the building blocks for writing songs and guitar solos. So then that's what I began practicing 8 hours a day. It was the eccentricities in my playing and the unusual stuff, and rather than trying to cop Chuck Berry or Keith Richards or Eddie Van Halen, I would just try to play different sounds, and whether it was the background music of a Public Enemy song, or the scratching of a DJ, or a lawnmower outside, or a helicopter overhead. And just by trying to, when you practice that stuff, it just, you may not be able to sound like a lawnmower or a helicopter, but you're not going to sound like Chuck Berry or Eddie Van Halen anymore. And so that once like the blinders came off, and I had my own lane, and I really felt like I found my own voice on the instrument, and the horizons were pretty endless.
So what you're saying is you have to work really hard.
Well, I mean, there was the work part and there was the inspiration part. Like the work part sort of made my fingers be able to go where I wanted them to go, but it was sort of it was the revelation that I didn't. It happened. There was a specific moment. My crossroads was at a gig in the San Fernando Valley, and Rage. In the earliest days, we were opening up for 2 cover bands, and in these cover bands, in each of the cover bands was like a really shredding guitar player who had like tremendous facility on the instrument. And I was watching them at soundcheck. I thought, well, if there's 2 like shredding guitar players at this lousy gig in the Valley, like on a Wednesday, there doesn't need to be 3. And so I need, like I need to figure out something that's my own to do. And that's when I started practicing other stuff. And
So you mentioned your guitar influences. Randy Rhoads, I guess you named your son after him?
yeah, Rhodes Morello. The reason why Randy Rhoads was the guitar player for Ozzy Osbourne, for those of you who don't know, may sort of think it's like a heavy metal thing, but he's a classically trained player who he self-identified as a musician first and as a rock star second. That very much appealed to me. I grew up on like suburban heavy metal where the themes of the music were often either groupies or the devil, none of which was present in my mom's basement where I was practicing. And so the poster that was on my wall was Randy Rhoads, who was this, on days off from the Ozzy Osbourne tour, they'd be playing, arenas and stadiums, but on days off, he'd take classical guitar lessons in whatever city they were in. And I really liked that kind of dedication to the instrument, and that was my aspiration as well.
I actually was just seeing a video on YouTube, obviously, of Ozzy listening to the isolated guitar solo from Crazy Train.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And unless you're not human, like you have to get chills listening to that.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's like it's a very a person who had a lot of technique, but also sort of with a classical tinge and then a deeply sort of emotional and kick-ass way.
So powerful, so precise, like fast. It's crazy. So you mentioned that Randy actually identified himself as a musician first, and as much as I appreciate good musicianship, I grew up as a cellist, and I am sad that I never got to jump on stage. So, like AC/DC or Kiss or whatever. So, what do you think makes a good musician, and what makes you want to jump on stage?
Well, I can tell you about my first stage jump. Well, the first gig I ever had, I went to a small Illinois town, and there were 3 bands in my high school. One of them was Destiny, and they were beautiful men who played beautiful music, and they were adored by the entire school. They were kind of like the Beatles of the school. Their dating lives were insane. Then there was Epitaph, and they were much too mean to play at a high school dance, and they like covered Sabbath and AC/DC, and you avoided them in the hallways but admired them greatly. And then there was my band. My band was the drama club oriented band, and it was called the Electric Sheep, and we didn't have the ability to play other people's songs, so we wrote our own music. Now, bizarrely, one of the members of that band is a fellow by the name of Adam Jones, who later surfaced in a band called Tool. We were in the same high school band together. But so our first gig, we had auditioned for a show, and we had to learn the song Born to Be Wild. It took us 4 months to learn it very, very poorly. But we were in competition with Destiny this night, and they had succeeded in their earlier performance. So they rolled us out, and they played like a Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young song, of course. And then, so we were on a riser, and the keyboard player that came in with the wrong chord to begin the song. Then the bass player, Adam, who's a tremendous musician now, but he came in with the wrong note on the bass. And things were not going great. So I had like one trick up my sleeve, and I could jump super high. So I like leapt off the riser, and the roof came off the place. And like it made me realize that perhaps there's more to rock and roll than playing the right notes. Perhaps you have to be inhabited by like the Holy Spirit of rock and roll, which I felt that maybe I had some of that in me, and maybe that would be my course moving forward.
That's great. So your new album, The Atlas Underground, just came out. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yay.
Thank you.
So I was actually watching one of your new music videos on YouTube, and the first comment was a very excited, all caps, explicit, which is basically how I felt when I first heard some of the new album, because there's all this genre mixing going around. You know, you got like EDM and hip hop and guitar rock, obviously. And so was that one of your goals with the album, to get people to listen to kinds of music that they don't normally listen to?
The goal was a very lofty one, and it was to forge a sonic conspiracy of diverse artists to shape a new genre of rock and roll, one that combines my Marshall stack riff rock fury with big EDM drops and some of the electronic components of today. In a way, a record that serves as maybe like a Trojan horse in 2018, where a lot of young people, gravitate more towards Ableton and computer composition for music, and less practicing 4, 6, 8 hours a day. And so part of my hope was to inflict electric guitar playing on a new generation, but working with a really incredible cast from, Marcus Mumford to Wu-Tang Clan, from Rise Against to Steve Aoki, Bass Nectar, K-Flay, Vic Mensa, Knife Party. There's more, Pretty Lights. There's a list like sort
Gary
of
Clark Jr.
a very eclectic
awesome.
Mix. But with the overall vision of this kind, the North Star guiding it being to make a new kind of rock and roll that, without compromising at all on the guitar playing or on the political content, to make music that would serve a new generation.
Awesome. And you mentioned all these people, amazing artists that you collaborated with. What was the most challenging collaboration, and why?
Well, there's a song called Every Step That I Take, which is a collaboration with Portugal the Man and Weethan, who's a teenage wunderkind EDM producer. And that song I wrote with Matt Schultz from Cage the Elephant, and Matt got very busy. So it took quite a while for that to get a final mix of that one, but it's actually the song that has kind of maybe done the best out in the world. And we're partnering with a great organization called SAVE, which is a suicide prevention organization, on this song. And my good friend Chris Cornell passed about a year and a half ago. So it was very important to get this song right and to make this song one that would sort of be a fitting eulogy for him, and to provide material support for people who are suffering from depression or suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, and a lot of us have or are currently suffering from mental illness issues, and it's nice to see people trying to work to demystify that. And and encourage people to get help. So you're working with Say. What exactly are you hoping to do with them?
Yeah, well, I mean, part of it is the demystify and taking the stigma away from mental. Like if you break your arm, you go to the doctor to set the arm. But if there's something wrong if something doesn't feel right in your mind, often even bringing it up. The people of my parents' generation were so, there was a lot of depression and things like that. They would never touch it with a 10-foot pole to try to seek help. But now, hopefully, if there's any silver lining to some of the passings that have happened in both in people's lives and in the entertainment industry, it can be to sort of demystify that and have there is help, and whether it's friends, loved ones, or professional help, or this great organization Save, you can reach out to for help at any time.
That's cool. And so this song became a tribute to Chris.
Yeah. It was not written as a tribute to Chris, but it's kind of pushing it forward as a way to make suicide awareness something that is at the forefront of this record.
Just him as a talent, can you tell us what you learned from working with him?
Sure. I mean, Chris Cornell was one of the thing that I learned in retrospect, now that he's passed, is that he was as a singer of Soundgarden and Audioslave, and in his solo career, he had deep, dark personal demons, but he managed to harness them for 52 years to make some of the greatest rock and roll that ever was made, And so just kind of watching that process it was awesome to stand next to his rock godly self with his incredible voice and his incredible hair. And it's like his whole vibe was just so perfect. Like, you're blessed, son. But just to be in a band, and also his effortless composition of melody. Like you give him anything, give him a complicated, heavy riff or a simple 2-chord chord progression, and he could make it flower into something that's really beautiful.
Are there any other artists that you haven't worked with that you would hope to work in the future?
Yeah, I'm actually sort of already started on part 2 of this Atlas Underground. There's about half a record done. I don't want to give any of the names away because it's not done yet. But yeah, I love the idea of challenging myself as a guitarist and as an artist.
Joe Rogan with Judah Friedlander.
That's good. This is usually me before headlining a show. And I get there right when like 5 minutes before I'm supposed to go on. And then as they're saying my name, I pull out a piece of paper from my pocket.
Go over.
All right, let's go. Because I'm trying to remember a few new things. But yeah, I always forget stuff.
I do that too. I mean, but I feel like even though you don't have to do that sort of preparation, the sitting in front, going over all the material, when I do that, everything comes out better.
Working. I think you got to work off stage and on stage. But I tend to work a little. I don't know, I saw that Seinfeld documentary, and it seems like he works almost completely off stage. Mm-hmm. Like his act is written, and then he goes up and says it. That's what it seemed like from the documentary. I do more writing. I'm about maybe 60-40, where as far as off-stage writing to on-stage writing.
Yeah, I think you need both. And people that don't write off-stage, I'm always like, God, man, you're missing out. You
have to.
Yeah. To get the most out. How long have you been doing stand-up now?
I started in '89.
And when did you become world champion?
That was at some point. I'm not great at math. It's one of my weaknesses. But it was. That was it. I was dabbling in it in the, I would say, mid to late '90s. But it's changed. The persona has changed so much over the years.
But it's such a weird one that you've always stuck with. Like every time I see you, got a world champion hat on.
Yeah.
You would
talk it's kind of like when you get knighted, like Sir Ben Kingsley. It's like he's not fighting.
Dragons
every day, but he was still officially knighted, so he still's got the title.
Right.
And theoretically, I'm still undefeated, so I still got the title. But initially the world champion persona kind of started as, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with Guinness Book of World Records, and I always used to try to break them. Like when I was 8, I tried to break the pogo stick record. I think the record was like 13 hours straight.
Oh my God.
And I did it for an hour straight without missing.
Really?
And an hour when you're 8 is like a really long fucking time. And I was so bored. I was a little tired, but I was so bored. And I was just like, fuck it. All right, this is not worth breaking, this world record.
It's amazing that it's only 13 hours. I feel like
that was at the time. That was at the time. That was in the 70s. That was like in 77.
There's a gang of world records that people found out were pretty easy, and they went, wait, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then they broke them.
I think there are, yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be, because there's probably people who haven't even tried.
Yeah.
Like the Guinness book is a fat book.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And you can come up with a world record. Like,
yeah, there's the group that does that, where they come up with ridiculous things that nobody else is doing, and then, it would be like a light rock, juggling 3 of these, the longest you did it, and then you get a world record.
Well, didn't Dane Cook, was it Dane or was it Chappelle who did the world record for the longest show?
I think they both had it at various times, and then one of them broke the other. I'm not sure who. I think Chappelle broke Dane's.
I think someone else that no one's ever heard of did like 28 hours.
So I think it was Tommy Tiernan in Ireland. I think he did 28 hours straight or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, fuck it, who wants to break that?
Who's watching that show?
And who wants to break that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Who wants to stay up for 28 hours straight?
Yeah, there's some weird world records, man.
Yeah.
There's some, like, what is it about world record? Like, I remember I wrote this article once about this guy who his world record was he had the longest fingernails ever.
I remember that guy. He was in all the books when I was a kid.
And they curl up. And that guy has massive nerve damage in his shoulder.
And has a hand that he cannot use for anything.
Can't use for anything.
Yeah.
Can't wipe his ass. Can't save his life.
Yeah.
And because it's heavy, it's fucked up his nervous system.
Yeah.
Like his body's imbalanced. It's like carrying a brick everywhere you go.
Yeah.
A brick made out of fingernails.
Yeah. So I was obsessed with those things. And then I think somewhere in like the early 90s or mid 90s, I was like, I started writing all these jokes about breaking all these ridiculous world records. And my act was always very joke heavy, a lot of one-liners. And it was always very, always did a lot of crowd work. And then I started making my own hats somewhere in the mid-90s, and I first made one that said record breaker. And then I thought it would be funny to make a hat that said world champion, but not of what. Like, who is this idiot wearing a hat that says world champion and doesn't even say what it is? This just this moron bragging kind of guy.
Right.
And it was also good because then it would lure the audience in to ask me questions, and I love doing crowd work, so it kind of worked, and it fed into these like world record, these ridiculous athletic achievement jokes that I was doing at the time. And then at some point, it sort of morphed, and it became not a guy who was bragging. It became like an actual real-life superhero who really is this amazing athlete and sexual creature that is just better than everyone. And he's actually just humbly stating how amazing he is. He'd talk about fucking Lois Lane, in front of Superman without him knowing it.
Lois Lane? Is that Lois's brother?
Yeah, that was Lois. Yeah, it was Lois Lane. It was... and that's actually her real name. She's transgender. A lot of people don't know that. The comics... because of bigotry at the time, never addressed it.
Oh, they glossed over it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they sure did.
Wow, how rude of them.
Yeah, wrong. Yeah.
Lois is a weird name for a chick. I don't know any Loises. She might be the only Lois ever.
Yeah, I don't know any Loises. So then the world champion kind of became this, and that's what this karate book is. It's just the real life greatest martial artist and athlete ever to walk the planet, and who doesn't brag but is just so incredible. And then the past few years, it's morphed some more, where the world champion is. I mean, he still has that. That is still is the greatest athlete and stuff, but it may not be talking about that. But he's become a person who is a champion of the world, and for the rights of the people of the world. So recently, like I started doing shows in Europe about 4 years ago, and it really kind of opened up my mind and my point of view, because when you're in a bad relationship, like you can't see it, but all your friends can see it because you're like too close.
Yeah.
But then if you step out, then you can like a couple years later, you're like, what the fuck was I doing? So when I started performing shows like in England and other countries in Europe, I initially thought, I'm going to be learning a lot about these countries. And I did that. But what I really started learning about a lot was my own country, because you were able to see how other people live, step away from the way you've been living, and physically be farther away. So I sort of just started seeing some of the hypocrisies and the ridiculousness of, just the culture and the laws that we have, the bullshit with the government. And so I started talking more about, the past few years' bigger issues, whether it's, classism, racism, different kinds of things. So, and I still try to, do it from the same ridiculous and absurd angles that my act has always kind of been. But now with, dealing with like big issues like that, because I've always liked doing like dark, twisted, crazy shit, in my material, and finding laughs in dark places. And so now with like, if I'm doing bits about racism, I love it because I love how uncomfortable the audience gets. Like if I'm doing bits about, like I have one bit about terminology about black people, should they be called black, should they be called African American? You should see, like usually the black people they're a little uncomfortable at first, but then they're fine. The white people are almost always terrified to be even discussing this. And that's where I like to get comedy out of those situations. You know, I've never been the guy who likes to get it out of the easy spot. I like going to where it's difficult. So I've been doing more stuff like that. And I also like doing it for everyone. Democrats, Republicans, because I don't find it interesting. Like if you're preaching to the choir, I never find that interesting or challenging. You know, I like doing a bit about guns, and there's people on the right and the left, and they're all laughing at the shit. That's what I like doing and trying to do. You know, so
there's like a conscious effort you have when you're crafting your jokes to sort of like. Or is it just like what you normally just sort of gravitate towards?
Well, these are things I normally gravitate towards, but I try to do it so that I try to point out the absurdity in it and to sort of like get people to laugh at something, and then they're realizing, wow, the fact that we're arguing over this is really absurd, you know, and so that they're going to laugh at it no matter what, you know, what their point of view is on an issue, like say gun control, you know,
gun control,
because most people, because both sides. They want the same thing. You know, they want peace. You know, they want safety, whether you're for guns or against guns. They both want that. So they have something in common, but they're so passionate about, you know, we want our guns, we don't want the guns, that they don't actually see that they actually have a more common ground than they think.
Right.
I mean, that's not what I preach in my act, but, you know, I take that, you know, that knowledge beforehand that these people actually agree more than they disagree. You know, it's how they go about solving the issue that they disagree.
Well, I think when we set up two opposing camps, like the right and the left, Democrats and Republicans, you know, you almost always have these artificial barriers that are like set up in place for people reaching common ground.
Yeah.
Like they're already in place.
Yeah.
Like you
it's
can't
already
agree.
Black and white. It's already good guys versus bad guys.
Well,
no matter which side you're
at. The left has
you know.
their ideas, and you have to oppose them if you're on the right, even if they make sense.
Yeah, what I think's gotten, and I think this has gotten worse, and I think some of it is due, like, to the internet, which we were talking about a little bit, you know, before the podcast started, where it's like
Sam Critchley with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I have thought a lot about this actually in my life lately, to be honest. Okay. And gotten nowhere with it in a way that meaning that you know, I'm in my mid 40s or whatever. I just saw this production of Ivanov. I didn't want to see this one with Ethan Hawke. And, oh, was it good? So good. And that play is so much about somebody who's saying, I'm not going to be happy, and I'm going to make you miserable, and I can't seem to get out of this, and you know, and I'm looking at this guy who's kind of my age, who's similar problems, and I was sitting there looking, going, oh God, and realizing I was thinking the same way that this character was thinking, and how it is still a pursuit of happiness. It is still him struggling to try to find a way out, but it just keeps circling back on itself constantly. The same thought, the same idea, the same action. Just he can't seem to get out of it. You know? And that's what I've been thinking a lot of lately. That there's a period of time in your life where I kind of look back and I think, was I happy or was I just not aware? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I mean, it seems like a very basic question, but I really do think that you reach a time where you go, you pull out of that somehow and go, I don't know. I don't know if I was happy or if I wasn't aware, and now I'm actually going to think about it. Yeah. And it really does upend a lot of things in your own life and in your own mind. And anyway, that was my thinking about happiness. Is like I don't know what it means to be. I really don't know what that means. I don't think.
Well, the word is a strange word because it's we could just begin by because one way of thinking about happiness is a pleasure, and there's a kind of wish I have for coffee, and I get coffee, and it gives me pleasure, that makes me happy. It's that sort of basic model of happiness. Or you could say the more coffee I get, the happier I get. So a quantitative idea of happiness. Or you could go qualitative and say, well, it's not any coffee, I want good coffee.
That's right.
So it's not just a pleasure, it has to be a sort of exquisite pleasure. But that doesn't seem to cover. So one view of happiness is that happiness is pleasure, and the philosophical as it were, view that would produce would be hedonism of a kind. We pursue pleasures. But that's not what people are talking about with happiness. There's happiness as a kind of, I mean, you know, in terms of philosophy, which is, you know, what I do for a living. I don't know how that.
How did you get away with
I
that?
don't know. I don't know how that. Really don't know how that got started. You get paid to think. It's amazing.
I love it.
And not think that much. You know, it's just sit there at home, Brooklyn, most of the time, and read books. But you know, anyway, but being professorial for a moment, the eudaimonia, Aristotle, the end of the Nicomachean Ethics, which is translated as happiness, but you could translate the Greek as something like blessedness, or something like beatitude was the Latin translation, but it requires the exercise of reason, it requires thought, and it presupposes some kind of virtue. So that's a better idea of happiness. So happiness is a kind of virtuous disposition, and you know, Aristotle thought it could produce pleasure. And this was he thought happiness was to enjoy the life of the gods. Aristotle thought that there was this ancient tradition that you find to enjoy the life of the gods. So happiness wouldn't be something, you know, necessarily internal. It would be a relationship to something outside you.
I think that's true. I mean, the only time I can think of right now, and I think I feel happy, because I have to say I don't even know what that means, and I know you're starting to define it in a way of like pleasure, pertaining to pleasure. I don't, but I would definitely say pleasure is not happiness. Okay. Because I think I kill pleasure. Do you know what I mean? Like I take too much of it in and therefore make it unpleasurable. Like too much coffee and you're miserable. Yeah. You know, and that I do that to pleasure often. You know, and so I you know, right? And it's like and there is no pleasure that I haven't actually made myself sick on. And so I look at pleasure and I kind of get scared, and I think that in my life now I think I have 3 children, and I think I'm happy when I'm with them, right? And they're okay. And I say that like the you know, and that means a lot this weekend. What's happened in our country recently. Sure. And I know people are thinking of that as I said it. That's why I said it, because I was thinking of it. But I'm not bringing that up because of that event. Really, I'm just bringing that up because I realize that something happens in that moment when they're okay, and that's an important thing. Is that when I see them enjoying each other in front of me, and then they let me enjoy them in turn. You know what I mean? So it's me with the children enjoying each other, and then them as a group letting me enjoy them. That brings a feeling which I would say is happiness. Now I don't know why. Right. I mean, I do know why, obviously, on the surface, because they're my kids, and but it is a certain thing that happens, and I'm like, right now, right now, this is it. Yeah. You know, I don't need to start. I don't need to leave it right here.
But that raises a very interesting issue, which is that, you know, if you're normally asked the question, "Are you happy?" you sort of reflect and you think, well, happiness is something that lies within, right? I don't think that's true. I think if it means anything, happiness lies without. It lies in our relationship to our very specific relationship to particular people. Yep. So, in the case you're in relation to your kids, you know, that's love, right? Yeah. That's love, and love is not self-love. No. Love is love of another. Right. So in that sense, you know, happiness would be a consequence of love. Right. Right.
But the love is conditional in that sense, though, meaning that I love them unconditionally. I can safely say that. I can say that there's a lot of things that I know that they've already thrown at me, and they will continue to throw at me, and I think my love will overcome that to this point. Of course, I can't say how far they'll push it, you know. But I can sit there and say feel strong about it. But I do say in the moment of where they're enjoying each other and they let me enjoy them as much. Do you see what I mean? So it's like, but there are moments when something else creeps in there, and I'm not conscious of the love. I'm conscious of something else, which happens to be my own childhood. If that makes sense. You know what I mean? So all of a sudden they start to reflect something other than what I hoped my childhood to be. Do you know what I mean? So like when they're loving each other and they let me enjoy them, all of a sudden it's almost like they're taking me back, and I'm going, oh God, it's so good to be young and enjoying each other. Do you know what I mean? Like having a kid always takes you back to being a kid somehow, and they really are showing me a childhood I might not have had in some way.
Right.
And I think that's what happens
good
with
to
kids.
go back like
and
that?
it feels good, meaning it does feel. So it is love, but it's also something else. I mean, love encompasses all those things I'm talking about. But if something else creeps in with the children, it becomes a different kind of reflection, which is of your shortcomings, your inadequacies, you know, your incapabilities, your powerlessness, and on and on and on, which wakens up a whole other thing. And that's what I mean about happiness. Does that mean it ended?
Right.
And that gets so discouraging to me. About, well, what is this thing? How does it become? Because Simon had said about unconditional and the happiness. I think something about how does happiness become unconditional? I guess when I heard that, I'm like, that would be a huge question of mine.
Yeah, I don't know. But let's think. But it brings to mind. Well, I was watching. I mean, Magnolia for the 168th time.
I'll tell Paul.
It's when there's the line from that film, well, it's repeated, as the man says, you might be through with the past, but the past isn't through with you. Yeah. Right? There's one line we need to remember, it's that the past is that thing that if you think you're through with the past is going to sneak up and destroy you, destroy whatever pleasure you might like to think you're having, which is then bound up with the family, say in that movie, right?
Right.
We have a litany of abuse, of weirdness, of incest, of all of that, which then makes that being happy with your kids and then reflecting on your past. There's all of that to consider, right?
Yeah.
But that would be unpleasant. Yeah, and that's the narrative that that's the basic narrative of like Greek tragedy. Right?
Yeah.
Here's someone that. Oedipus, who thinks he's happy, solves riddles, he's king, he's got a beautiful wife and kids, and then the past undoes him.
Exactly.
Right?
I think that's exactly what I'm saying. Actually.
Right.
I think what you're saying, I'm sure as I was saying that how do you do you keep your past and your present all the time then? Because I think what Paul says what Paul puts there in the film is, and he also talks about regret.
Yes.
In that passage. Regret, and he also says something that I love, and I think is only ever said in that movie, is that life is not short, it's long.
Yeah.
You know, people always say life is short. That's kind of the phrase. Life is short, time is short. And it does. As we get older, time does quicken, you know. But he says, and it's so right, it's long. And it's long pertaining to that thought.
Yeah.
That the past is not done with you because you can't get rid of it. And so therefore it just starts to drag.
Yeah.
It does, and it's dragging on that guy, and it's dragging on all the old men in that, which tells you a lot about what he's saying in that story.
Dak Shepard with Malcolm Gladwell.
I just try to look fine when I take my shirt off on TV. That's really the whole goal. And I've said many times, I have no desire to be strong. I just want to look strong.
Yeah. You're in a world which places a premium on those kinds of presentations. I mean, you don't have any choice.
And as much as I fantasize about lifting a car off somebody, it's just never presented itself. I've never really found that I needed superhuman strength yet, and I'm 44. So I don't know. So far, I think I've picked the right lane. I am most generally interested in why people find their way to the path they did, more than I maybe even am the path they're on. So you have kind of a unique background that I'm going to theorize gives you a fun perspective on people, Americans in general, specifically. But the fact that you were born in England and then you were raised in Canada and then you've now lived in New York so much. And then, as you just said, you're out here a lot. Do you feel like your background has given you, in the way that there's a lot of great Canadian comedians, and I believe it's because they understand us so well, yet they are on the outside. So they have this great take on us. They can observe us.
Yeah. Well, there's another factor about why there's so many Canadian comedians, and that is that you can get away with things because you're not a threat. So not only do you have the outsider's perspective, really important. Things strike you as odd that people who are native to that situation just miss. But more than that, you're from a little tiny country that no one's scared of. So like you can say the most outrageous things, and who's possibly going to be threatened by it?
You're right.
So there's freedom that comes with being an outsider.
Yeah, if you were Russian or one of the perceived threats, we probably wouldn't think it was that funny that you were mocking us, right?
Yeah.
That's
if
true.
If it was the Cold War,
Yeah.
and you were, yes, exactly, there would be an issue. I always feel like there should be a general agreement about what the kind of cutoff for insignificant is in country size. So what's Canada, like 32 million or something? I forgot.
Less or on par with California as a state,
It
right?
should, there should be like below a certain point, people should just be like, you can say whatever you want. It really doesn't matter. If the Dutch say something terrible, I mean, no one's going to get terribly upset because it's the Dutch.
Yeah, some Liechtensteinian comedian says something, we're like, okay.
No. But on the other hand, if someone from, if a German says something, Germany is consequential, right? You're going to get upset. So somewhere between the Dutch and the Germans, I feel like there's a line. I would like to stay on the bottom end of that line.
So it becomes a great asset to have this kind of outside perspective. But then at the same time, I could imagine that also would come with, let me first say, one of my favorite chapters of yours is on dyslexia, because I am dyslexic and I had a horrendous time through K through 5, but then found my way in junior high and then became a good student later. But I had grown up with the knowledge that, oh yeah, you're twice as likely to go to jail or be imprisoned if you're dyslexic. And then you revealed you're also twice as likely to be a CEO. And did I get it roughly right? It's not those numbers.
Conceptually, that is correct.
Are the numbers wrong?
You see, I'm already so nervous.
I know.
It's a curve. It's like dyslexics are overloaded at the tails of the curve.
Right.
More of them in prison, more of them super high achievers, whereas non-dyslexics are a normal bell curve with most of the people in the middle.
And I found that to be very comforting and wonderful as a dyslexic. And in that story, you articulate, what are you giggling about? How nervous I am?
No, I'm so happy that you're here because you talk about this stuff all the time and you are getting it probably a little wrong. So I'm so glad we're going to get all the answers this time.
But I think what I interpreted that point is struggles and coping mechanisms and having to strengthen other aspects can be of great value in your life.
Yeah.
Right? Challenges. So
my friend David Epstein, who wrote this brilliant book called Range, uses the phrase in his book, strategic difficulty. In David and Goliath, I talk about desirable difficulty. And they're both these similar notions of if it's too hard, it's a problem. If you have too many problems, you can't get ahead. And if you have no problems, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? What you want is something that in the course of being challenged the right amount, you're forced to be resourceful. You will learn things in a more profound way. You will investigate your own strengths and weaknesses more aggressively. There's all kinds of good things that happen from. And I feel like the reason that's such an important point is that a lot of people think that what preparation for excellence is the removal of difficulty.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to give you the very, very, very best endowed, overly resourced environment imaginable.
Yeah,
Actually,
no obstacles. Right.
You don't want that. You want to have something that you have to wrestle with.
And I think a lot of parents like myself, we are incredibly privileged. So we're now in this bizarre situation where we're almost trying to manufacture obstacles or challenges for our kids. My wife and I, as having 2 little kids, and we have money and we have time and all those things. And it's kind of like, I got to figure out what is, how do I make sure I'm not robbing them of the opportunity to develop these coping mechanisms and skill sets. It's kind of challenging.
Yeah.
But where I was going with it is moving to Canada, what were you, 6?
Yes. Went to Canada from England when I was 6.
And Dad was a mathematics professor, and Mom was a psychotherapist and a writer. And Mom is from Jamaica?
Mom is Jamaican, yes.
So again, even within that little bubble, Mom has a different perspective probably,
Mom
right?
has a different perspective. She does. Yes, she does. I'm only laughing because my lovely mother, who is very, very much with us, she does. She has the benefit of many, many different perspectives. Raised in Jamaica, educated in England, married an Englishman, moved to rural Canada. I mean,
yeah.
And then also there's an age thing that's kind of fascinating. My mom was born into a house in the middle of nowhere in Jamaica with no electricity, no indoor plumbing, no one had a car, and then ends up in
the early 40s or late 30s or something?
My mom was born in 1930.
Okay.
And then ends up in, 21st century modern Canada. And like, I don't think all of us in this room will not see, I doubt, will not see that much technological and social movement in our lifetimes.
Yes, from zero electricity to an iPhone.
Yeah, wow.
Is kind of a lot.
Right? It is.
Yeah. I mean,
it might be the sweetest spot of that transition.
Of seeing
maybe.
everything.
You know, we're always patting ourselves on the back as we're the generation that will witness the most. I was like, I don't kind of know. I sort of think going from no electricity to the iPhone is the most anyone's going to have.
Yeah.
And, I mean, imagine the perspective someone of her generation has on top of all the geographical and cultural movement, this crazy thing of like, you know, growing up with horses and buggies and now taking jets across to Europe kind of thing.
Yes. And then landing and pulling up your phone and then a car pulls up in front of you and you get in and go anywhere you want. I mean, we're really getting...
My mom hasn't gotten to Uber
Oh,
yet.
she's not on the Uber train? She's more of a Lyft person? Well, I just mean, more and more, like we travel a bunch for this show and I always say like, we're getting close to teleporting. I mean, we are really getting close to like, you wake up somewhere, you know, in the morning and you go to the airport and then you can really just be anywhere. And I try to be conscious of it. Like it is an incredible accomplishment that we can be anywhere on the globe.
Yeah.
Now it's really exciting. What I find that you point out often, and it seems to be a theme through many of the books, is how bad our intuition is quite often, how counterintuitive results of studies generally are. And I think you often question a lot of assumed things, which I really like. And I was trying to think about what causes that. And I was wondering, do you think us using all this technology that has been amassed over centuries give us a false sense of our own intelligence? Like, is that part of the problem? Because I was an anthropology major, primatology specific. That's what I was interested in. And the difference between a chimpanzee's intelligence and ours compared to a chimpanzee's and a mouse, it's not that big of a deal. We're just fractionally smarter than a chimp, right? But other people have created all this stuff that gives us kind of this bolstered sense of our intelligence. Is that part of why we think we're so?
We are massively overconfident. And a lot of modern psychology is simply the attempt to catalog the degree to which we are overconfident or overly in awe of our own abilities. My most recent book, Talking to Strangers, a big chunk of that is trying to dismantle this degree of self-confidence. Is like, you think that you can sum up a stranger, you know, usefully and accurately in the space of one encounter. Chances are you can't.
Yes.
You think you can tell a liar. No, you can't. You all those sorts of things that we need to be reminded that we're not good at these fundamental social tasks.
Yeah, and moreover, the proximity to the person actually can be more misleading than space from it. Like you cite different examples where the people who met Hitler generally trusted him, and the people that never met him face to face were more objective and better at knowing who he was.
Yeah. What we're really built to do in social interactions as human beings is date. That's to say, all of our systems are optimized for romantic encounters, for choosing mates, for figuring out. And in that realm, we're pretty good. It is possible to know very quickly whether you're attracted to someone, right?
Yeah.
We have that down. That's what we've been optimized for.
Uh-huh.
But when we try and transfer that to non-romantic settings, we get in trouble. Like, you know, I am constantly amazed by, I think we're in the middle of, the process of choosing our presidential candidates. The mythology that surrounds choosing presidential candidates is the mythology of dating. It's really, when you think about it, people fall into this trap of saying, well, I want this person. Why? Because what they're effectively saying is, that's the person I would date.
Right.
And you
that's
realize
true.
you're not dating the president. In fact, if you were to imagine a more perfect selection process, it would be one in which you never met any of the candidates. It is not useful to know that Pete Buttigieg is 5'8", to know that Elizabeth Warren is a woman, to know that Joe Biden is, 80 years old or however old he is. None of these facts.
Thank you, folks, for listening. Tune in next week for more podcasts of all podcasts.
Hey, stay safe. And you out this week with a little Led Zeppelin.